Hey everybody, Michael Crump here. I've noticed that there has been a ton of videos that's been showing DKOldies consoles coming into a content creator's desk, them opening it up and seeing all kinds of dirt, dust, etc. And then also typically you would hear them complaining about DKOldies prices, but they're really not comparing it against anything that's actually live and out in the market. So what I thought I would do was I thought I would head over to Facebook Marketplace. I would find a used console and then come back and take a look and see what the price was on DKOldies versus maybe just buying locally through OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace. So let's just go ahead and let's take a look at that right now. PS2 with games, and it just said that this was going to be $40. Now, if we go ahead and we take a look at the images in here, we can see that, yeah, for the most part, there is a network adapter as well as there was a controller. The front of it does look like it is a bit worn out. We'll have to see if that's something that we could remove with just a good old-fashioned cleaning. I saw there was a MultiTap. Now, it had a number of different memory cards in there, and it looked like there was a receiver right there for a wireless PlayStation 2 controller. Now, scrolling up, we could see that there was really 4 controllers here, one being this Mad Catz 2.4 gigahertz wireless controller, and then 3 OEM PlayStation 2 controllers. These cables would work for a number of different systems. So you might be able to see it looks like there's an Xbox in here, a GameCube, a PS2, and maybe something else. But these are a bit more of that kind of general purpose cables. And then the last image over here was for the games. We could see we have ESPN, a bunch of the Jack and Dexter games, as well as Street Racing Syndicate, Smuggler's Run, Gran Turismo 3, and then Need for Speed 2. So at this point, I did send a message to the seller, and the first person didn't pick it up. So they contacted me and they said, hey, you know what? They didn't pick it up, but you can come and grab it if you would like it. So what I did was I obviously took off and went and picked this up and brought it back. And let's just go ahead and let's open up the bag together. Okay, so let's begin with a couple of the controllers which were on the top. So right here is the very first controller that was added. And now one of the things that I am looking for in here is if these are real controllers versus third-party controllers that, you know, DKOldies typically ships with. So let's see what we have here. So obviously, one of the things that we can see is that it has not been cleaned whatsoever, which, you know, it doesn't seem like that's too bad since we know that DKOldies also doesn't clean their consoles. But yeah, we can see there's definitely quite a bit of dust, which, you know, again, this is a Facebook Marketplace. Let me fill the buttons here. On the first controller, yeah, there isn't anything that is sticking. Now, since this did come with a MultiTap, the other controllers did not appear as if they were used unless somebody came over. But again, all of the buttons feel really good here, and we can see that this is a DualShock 2, and the Sony lettering looks perfect on it. If we flip this thing over, then what we can see right here is that this does say Sony and that this is 100% a legit PlayStation 2 OEM controller. And as I was wrapping this up, I did just double check to see if the pins were good, and they are absolutely terrific. And here we have the second controller. Again, there is quite a bit of dust, as you can see right here. Okay, so as I was unraveling this controller, I did notice a problem right here. So, yeah, so this is going to be another official Sony PlayStation controller. Again, that all matches up right here in the back. But we do have a problem with this controller. As you can see right here, it looks like the wires here were starting to become undone. So they looks like they tried to kind of tape it up, which maybe got this one back working again. But this really still is no problem whatsoever. You can easily open these PlayStation 2 controllers and you can replace this full cable right here, which is what more than likely that I would do. You don't want any sort of problems, electrical problems especially happening with using this sort of cable. I am going to go ahead and check the buttons here, and there isn't anything that is currently sticking. And of course, I could run this through a website where it tests all of the buttons. I've used some of those in the past, but I think we are okay here. The only thing that we would need to do would be replace this cable, again coming from either another broken PS2 controller or just grabbing this wire from something like eBay. Okay, now on to the third controller here. And yeah, these have definitely been setting somewhere for a very long time. As you can see, there is a lot of dust on these controllers. Now, this one, as I was opening it up, I did not see anything with the cables, and I even went back and double checked that very first controller that we had. But yeah, as you can see here, this absolutely needs a good old-fashioned cleaning. On the back here, we can see that this is obviously a Sony related controller. And I will just test these buttons out here regardless of how gross it currently is. And yeah, I don't see anything sticking or anything way out of place with any of these so far. Okay, so 3 controllers in already. All 3 of these are OEM related controllers. And so this one right here is going to be a third-party controller. And this one, as you can see, is by Mad Catz. So let's test these buttons here. Now, Mad Catz is obviously a third-party related controller, but Sony did not make a wireless controller for the PlayStation 2. So here is what we currently have. So in here, we could open this up. Thankfully, they did not leave batteries in here. Usually batteries that are left in there leads to a ton of different corrosion, but there is going to be 3, it looks like, AAA batteries that's going to be required there. Other than that, this controller looks great. This is the 2.4 gigahertz wireless, and we will need a dongle in order for this to work. And so there is all of the controllers. So as we could see, we have an OEM controller right here that looks fine. We have this one, which has a bit of a work on the wire that needs to be done here. And then we have another controller. This one looks great. Just all of these would need to be cleaned up. And then finally, we have a wireless controller, which is a Mad Catz controller, third party. And we will need the dongle for that. So let's see if we've got that. Okay, so here is the MultiTap exactly as it was in the bag that I just showed you. So let's see what is all connected to this. So this is absolutely a Sony MultiTap, and this is an official version. Easy to kind of tell it with these MultiTaps. You may be able to see right there on the screen, it does have Sony MultiTap there. And so these basically allowed you to add some additional players to your games. Now, it already had a bunch of things connected, so let's see what we've got here. It looks like right off the bat, we have 2 official Sony PlayStation 2 memory cards. So here are the official memory cards. These do have Magic Gate by them, which means that you would be able to do things such as run free McBoot on these cards without any problems whatsoever, because these are not third party. So nice to have 2 more solid OEM memory sticks to add to my collection. Now, also what we see in here is the Mad Catz receiver. So there is the link, and what this would go to would be our amazing wireless controller that I showed you just a second ago. So it is very, very, very cool that this came with an official dongle that I can use with it. So that will be great to know and to have. And again, these were right around 2005 from Mad Catz. And then we have another memory card here. This is obviously a PlayStation 1 memory card. It does have Sony, and looking at the back of this, this is another absolute legit real memory card. So this memory card could absolutely be used in PlayStation 1 or obviously PlayStation 2 to save your PlayStation 1 game saves. And then finally over here, there is another third-party memory card. So I can't tell what this is, but this would more than likely be a memory card that we wouldn't necessarily use. So this would be really great if you had maybe a trade or something for a PlayStation 2 and you wanted just to add a memory card. But yeah, this is something I would probably get rid of. And then finally, the MultiTap. Again, it's in really good condition. It does need to be cleaned just like everything else. But yeah, there is the MultiTap. Super happy to get one of these. Okay, and now let's go over to the system itself. So we have a PlayStation 2 Phat model. As we can see right here, it does have quite a bit of dust that will need to be removed. But overall, it does not look very bad, at least as I'm just kind of looking through the vents right here. So this would need to be cleaned 100%. And if we go over to the back of it, yeah, you can see the dirt and dust in there. But as you can see right here, this one does come with the official PlayStation 2 hard disk drive. So this was an add-on piece, and this was used to get onto the internet in the PlayStation 2 era. So it's got a phone line for dial-up modem, and then obviously it's got an Ethernet cable here. And now sometimes these come with the hard disk drive, but I don't believe the hard disk drive is in this one simply because of the weight of the system. But we are going to go find out. Okay, so I've loosened it up, and okay, you can tell right there, there is where all of the dust comes from. So yeah, that is pretty bad on the inside, but still, I'm not really that concerned about it right now. Mainly being because I know that these PlayStation 2s can last through quite a bit, and I believe after a good cleaning, it will be ready to go. But as we can see right here, this is another official network adapter that is by Sony. So obviously one thing sometimes people do is they replace this with a SATA connector. This is of course IDE, because that is the type of hard drives that we had back then. So yeah, there is the official network adapter by Sony that was included in this lot. There was a number of cables that came in this. I'm not sure what they all are right now, but looks like at least this very first one right here, this is just a standard power supply for the PlayStation 2, so nothing that interesting there. And then we've got 2 more cables here. Let's see what this one is to begin with. So this is one of those Mad Catz, multi-adapter kits. So like this is one for the Xbox 360. This one would probably go to the GameCube. There is also this other one. This one would be the PlayStation 2. And then what you get here is you get S-Video, so an S-Video out, and then you get your standard left and right composite audio cables, and then You can optionally use the yellow here for composite video if you would like. So these are definitely multi-purpose cables, and it may be interesting to see how well the S-Video on this one right here does work with some of these older consoles, especially for game capture, and if you didn't want to do things like upgrade to HDMI on those consoles. The other cable here looks like it is the same sort of thing. It does not have a brand on it, or I don't see a brand on it, but you also get the S-Video as well as your left and right audio. These would also just plug into whatever system that you've got. Now, one thing I did not have was some cables that also supported S-Video. So it's nice to have at least 2 sets of cables that I would be able to get S-Video out of for one of my older consoles. And then finally, there was a ton of different games that came with the system. So let's look at them real quick. The very first one being Jak and Daxter. Now this one doesn't have a manual, but at least from what I understand, the rest of these will have a manual. So there is Jak and Daxter, Jak 2, which should come with the manual. Obviously there is the manual and there is the disc. I guess I'll take a look at one of these discs. The disc is a little scratched up, but nothing too crazy. The next one would be Jak 3. There is the book, and let's look at the disc. Just looks fairly decent there. And then we have Jak X Combat Racing, has the book. There is the disc. And then we have ESPN NFL 2K5. We have Gran Turismo 3. Street Racing Syndicate here, Need for Speed Underground 2, which is a very great game, by the way. Now this one is a greatest hits. And then finally here, we've got a Smuggler's Run copy. And this one is obviously Rockstar. So just taking a look at a couple of these games, for the most part, the ones that will be the most valuable will probably be this set right here, which is the Jak and Daxter set. Now, these aren't that valuable, meaning that you would get about probably $8 to $10 for really each one of these 3 titles, especially if you had the book, which these 3 have right here. Now, for the rest of this lot, excluding this one would also run about $8. But then for the rest of these are pretty much $5 games. Now, they did have, again, the manual, so it could obviously be very helpful for something such as a PS2 game trade. Okay, so now that we have looked at all of this stuff, what I wanted to do was I wanted to take a look at DKOldies, their website, and just see what this lot would cost there. Now, keep in mind that I paid $40 for this lot. Okay, let's jump over to DKOldies and take a look. Let's begin. We're going to go to PlayStation, PlayStation 2, and then we're going to go to the PS2 systems here. And since it is a Phat console, means it would have to be one of these 2 right here, since this one is discontinued and this one is out of stock. So let's go right there. And this says Sony PlayStation 2 with 1 controller. So with this one, you do get the original PS2 console and then 1 compatible controller and then TV hookup and power cord. And so upgrade to the original controller is available. So I believe that means right off of the bat, you do not get a original controller. You would get a third party. Here with the player pack, if you select none, then I guess you get the third party controller, or you can get a original OEM controller with this. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take that option and just add 1 to our cart here. Let's go back to PlayStation and let's just go ahead and add in the network adapter. This one is showing that it is available, and actually $14.99 isn't that bad of a price. So we are going to go ahead and we're going to add that to our cart as well. And we can see the original Sony MultiTap is going to be right here, right at $25. We definitely would not want a generic version here. So I think I'm going to go with that one. So we'll select this and we'll go ahead and add that to our cart. Now we need to add in our controllers. So we'll go back to PS2 accessories. And since these are original DualShock 2 controllers, we are going to go ahead and we're going to increase the quantity to 3 here to match what I got. Now back over to the accessories here. Let's get the other controller, which was a wireless controller. I'm not sure if actually there is one of the wireless controllers, which is a replica analog wireless controller, black, for the PlayStation 2. So this is definitely not as good of quality, in my opinion, as those original Mad Catz, but we're going to go ahead and since this is the closest, we'll add this one to our cart. Okay, so now let's go back and let's add in the memory cards. It looks like the one that they had that exactly matches ours is currently out of stock, but I do believe that maybe this one right here would be what would be the closest to match it. So this is an original memory card, 8 megabyte clear blue for the PlayStation 2. So we got 2 of those, so I'm just going to add that to 2. And then the other memory card that it came with was obviously another third-party memory card. Now, most of these are showing kind of out of stock, so I don't know what the prices on all of those are. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and we'll take this one right here and we'll add it to the cart. And then we also had a PS1 memory card. And well, it looks like most of these are also out of stock, but we could come up here and grab this original memory card, and this one would probably do the trick since again, it was an official PlayStation 1 memory card. And then we had 2 sets of audio video cords for the PlayStation 2. Obviously, here is one set that I found, and I couldn't necessarily find one that had the S video scrolling down through that, but I'm just going to go ahead and go with 2 sets of the AV cords to match what we got from the Facebook Marketplace ad. Okay, and so next up is going to be the games. And so the very first game that we'll select is going to be Jak and Daxter. And in this one, we're just going to get the game only since ours did not come with the manual. And we had Jak 2, which this one is showing right at $20, which is a little high. And ours does come with everything. So we're going to go add to cart there. And then we're going to get Jak 3, which is also going to come with the game, the case, the cover art, and the manual. And then we're going to get Jak X Combat Racing. And this one, while we would like to get the game, the case, the cover art, manual, that one is not available. So we are just going to go ahead and pick the game only here. And then we will also get Smuggler's Run, and that one's also only available as the game. And here is Need for Speed Underground 2. Now, this is not a greatest hits, but I believe that what we can do to kind of make that even out is just go over to a game only here and then go add to cart. And then we would have Gran Turismo 3. Again, the main game is right now out of stock. So we'll just go ahead and pick up this NFS or not for sale copy. And then we have ESPN NFL 2K5. It is not in stock on the PS2, but it is on the Xbox, so I'll take that one. And then the very last one here is going to be Street Racing Syndicate. It is also out of stock, so we're just going to take the Xbox version here. Okay, and so that is really going to do it. I believe that's every item. Let's go ahead and let's look at how much this total is going to be. Now, I want you to pause the video just for a second and then add up, at least in your mind, how much DKOldies is charging for the same thing that I got for $40 through Facebook marketplace. So pause the video and think about it, and then I'll reveal the answer. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. So to begin with, we've got the Sony PlayStation 2 Black PS2 Power Pack that comes with an original black controller. We also had the PlayStation 2 network adapter, as well as the original Sony MultiTap adapter for the PS2. So far, that would take care of these 3 items, as well as one of the controllers. The next thing that we have here is 2 of the original DualShock 2 controllers, which were black. So now we've got all of these line items covered. A replica analog wireless controller, which would match that one. And then we've got a couple of memory cards in here. So an original memory card, 8 megabyte clear, blue. This is for the PlayStation 2. And since they only had one in stock, we will need to add another $12.99 to the final total, and then that one will be taken care of, as well as the third-party memory card and then the original memory card for the PlayStation 1. So now all of these have been taken care of. The AV accessories are located right here. Again, this is actually a cheaper version than the ones that were given to me in that deal. And then we got a bunch of games. We had Jack 1, Jack 2, Jack 3, as well as Jack X Combat Racing right here, Smuggler's Run, NFS Underground 2, and then Gran Turismo 3, ESPN NFL 2K5, Street Racing Syndicate. Again, this one was only available on the Xbox, but that will take care of all of the games that came with this system. Okay, and so for the total of everything on this list, and again, we would need to add in another $12.99 since they only had one of the official memory cards. The total here is $593.80. And if you add in that memory card, you are well over $600 for the same thing that cost $40 through the Facebook Marketplace. Okay, so I bet you're wondering, does this actually work? Well, here's some video that I took inside my laboratory. So there's the PS2. I do have the dongle for the wireless controller, and the system is already turned on. And as you can see, the system boots up just fine, and the wireless controller is working perfectly well. We'll go ahead and we'll check the disk tray here, and so it is ejecting properly and closing properly. And I thought it would be a good idea to go ahead and to play a game, so we'll play one of the games that they gave us, which was 2K5 NFL. Okay, there we can see at least it is able to read disk, and there is Sega. Now we don't have a memory card inserted here, so we'll just go ahead and select yes, and there is the game running right off of the disk. And we'll press the start button on the wireless controller, and there we are. We're into the main game. And all of the buttons seem to be working well, so this PlayStation 2 is working as far as I'm concerned. So I'm saying all this to say, obviously know what products are worth before you go out and you buy them. Obviously, if you rely on a site such as DKOldies, for example, well, then there's really no telling how much you're going to be paying for the same amount of stuff. And really, it's going to be in that same sort of condition as what I got. Like, there's still going to be dust in it. You still need to do cleaning it out, even though they say that that comes with it. There's enough YouTubers that have proven to me that they don't clean their consoles. So I just wanted to show this real world example, because I think a lot of people have went out and they've done things such as just buy a console from DKOldies and say, okay, well, it's expensive. So I kind of wanted to do a comparison of a real live marketplace item or items being sold versus DKOldies. Well, anyway, I hope you got something out of this. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Michael, out.